الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين، جد الحسن والحسين، أبي القاسم محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. ولعنة الله على الأعدائهم أجمعين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل لا أسألكم إليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى. صدق الله العلي العظيم. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair, dear young brother Arif, for reciting Surah Al-Fatiha and Surah Al-Ikhlas before me. Indeed, these are the cornerstones of the Holy Quran. They represent the very core of our beliefs and our principles, and this is what Imam Hussain عليه الصلاة والسلام stood for: Tawheed in its very truest form. And that Tawheed is part and parcel with accepting the Ahlul Bayt, just as our dear Hajj has been emphasizing so strongly over the past 5 nights. Part of that vertical chain, a necessary part, without which Tawheed is incomplete and salvation is incomplete. Tonight, of course, is the martyrdom of our beloved 6-month-old infant of Imam Hussain, Ali Al-Asghar, عليه الصلاة والسلام. Inshallah, with that said, I'd like to invite our dear and respected Hajj, Dr. Abdul Sa'ad, to deliver the main lecture for tonight. Inshallah, continuing with this discussion and also a free-flowing conversation, inshallah, with the audience that follows. Please welcome him with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته جميعا. We gathered tonight for our 6th night in a row. And inshallah tonight, just let me set my timer. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And tonight, inshallah, we will be continuing our discussion of Karbala in context, Quranic psychology. And I want to focus on some key verses from Surah Taha tonight, which give us some profound insights into the psychology of the human being, the Bani Adam, the children of Adam, the Adamic creature, the creature that has the potential to represent Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as his representative on earth. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَلَقَدْ عَهِدْنَا إِلَىٰ آدَمَ مِنْ قَبْلُ فَنَسِيَ وَلَمْ نَجِدْ لَهُ عَزْمًا. Surah Taha, chapter 20, verse 115. We also commanded Adam before you, but he forgot, and we found him lacking in azm. We found him lacking in azm. And azm can be translated as, we found Adam to be lacking in determination, resoluteness, firmness of purpose, or constancy. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. وَلَقَدْ عَهِدْنَا إِلَىٰ آدَمَ مِنْ قَبْلُ فَنَسِيَ وَلَمْ نَجِدْ لَهُ عَزْمًا. We also commanded Adam before you, but he forgot, and we found him lacking in constancy, in determination, in resoluteness or firmness of purpose. Now this is a very interesting verse which is revealing to us key aspects of the human psychology. Adam alayhi salam was commanded by God Almighty, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to not approach the tree, which would guarantee that he would remain in that state of bliss in the garden. And the verse says, فَنَسِيَ, but he forgot. And this is part of the nature of us as humans. We have this tendency to forget, nisyan, which is why in Arabic the human is called insan. He has a tendency to be forgetful, to fall asleep, to become heedless. He's prone into falling into states of forgetfulness. And remember that we said yesterday that the forgetfulness here is reflecting not a sinful nature, but is reflecting a lack of awareness, a dimming of the intellect. So this creature, this Adamic creature, part of his psychology, as revealed in this verse, is that he can be duped, he can be deceived, he can be tricked, he or she, humans. So when I say here, he, I mean you and me. You can be duped, you can be deceived, you can be tricked. When? When can we be tripped up and tricked and deceived? When we lose our connection to divine guidance. Right? Adam was given guidance by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he was told, you're free now, go. Roam, wander. And as soon as he was not attached to that divine guidance and he was left to his own devices, what happened? He went into nisyan. He forgot. And he became open to being deceived or tricked or tripping up. So azm here, Allah says, we commanded Adam, but he forgot, and we found him lacking in azm, resoluteness, determination, constancy, steadfastness. Azm means a firm resolve to do something, a determination to carry it through, to see it through, which would mean getting through all of the difficulties and the potential distractions that would deviate us from what we have been determined to achieve. So this is a key part of human psychology. Anything you want to achieve that is worthwhile, you will have to overcome obstacles, setbacks, any goal. Studying, acquiring a degree, getting married, losing weight, building muscle, creating wealth, building a business, requires determination. So one of the key features of the human is this tendency to lack follow through, to be inconsistent. So Allah says we found Adam to lack azm. وَلَمْ نَجِدْ لَهُ عَزْمًا. Now in the context of Imam Hussain عليه السلام, we see that this attribute of lacking azm, did it apply to Imam Hussain or did it not apply? It didn't apply. Imam Hussain had absolute azm, absolute resolve, absolute determination. Right? Nothing could deviate him from his path. No matter the setbacks, the pressures, the threats and intimidation, he did not deviate from the course that he was on, his divine purpose. What does this prove? That he is the true Khalifa. That he is the true representative of Allah. That in actuality, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, as a member of the sacred household, stands in a superior position to this Adamic creature who is you and me in the Quran. Although he's of the Adamic creation, he is a Bani Adam. He is part of the Adamic creation. He stands at the pinnacle in that vertical chain. And these verses are addressing you and me. So we see the distinction here. Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam is not just a made up point. They are special. They are different. They are unique. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in one verse is revealing a key aspect of our psychology, that we have this tendency to backslide, to regress. And in the Quranic definition of human psychology, sin is not this deformed nature we have. It's the result of losing sight of our target. One of the words for sin in Arabic, and that's used in the Quran, is fasaqa. Fasaqa, in Arabic there's a phrase called fasaq al-sahm. Sahm is the arrow. Now, if the arrow deviates from its aim, that's called fusuq. Fusuq, fasaqa, means the arrow deviated from its intended target. So sin is when you deviate from your intended target. When you go off course, you go off track. Right? So, for example, if we look at the one key aspect of our human psychology, is whenever we have a goal or a target that's worth achieving. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. We'll just let things settle. We've got some brothers visiting. Assalamu alaikum. Alayhi salam, habibi kifak. So, one of the examples here is achieving our target is to do with having an awakening to who we truly are. I'm sure that you've seen videos online of brothers. I'm really having trouble concentrating with sorry, I can't multitask when there's talk. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. See, this is the deficiency in my psychology. I can't filter out the background noise, unfortunately. So please bear with me. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. This is my deficiency. So forgive me. So, for example, you notice that if you see these videos of people that lose a lot of weight and they document their journey, usually it begins with one moment where they capture themselves on video and they say, that was the moment when I made the decision to lose the weight. So really, in that moment, what happened? They haven't lost the weight yet, but they awakened to the reality that they were off target. They had an awakening. Something was illuminated here. And it's in that moment that they changed. So transformation occurs in a moment. Then you go about doing the work to transform. But the transformation itself is in that moment of awakening, when we reawaken that we've deviated. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in the surah, in the ayah, afwan. وَلَقَدْ عَهِدْنَا إِلَىٰ آدَمَ مِنْ قَبْلُ فَنَسِيَ وَلَمْ نَجِدْ لَهُ عَزْمًا. We commanded Adam before you, but he forgot, and we found him lacking in determination, in consistency, in firmness of purpose. This is a key part of our human psychology. We often will falter. And what I want to show you in this lecture is that we just have to accept that's part of how we're made. That's part of the process of our life on earth. فَقُلْنَا يَا آدَمُ إِنَّ هَذَا عَدُوٌّ لَكَ وَلِزَوْجِكَ فَلَا يُخْرِجَنَّكُمَا مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ فَتَشْقَى. We said, Adam, this is your enemy, yours and your wife. Do not let him drive you out of the garden and make you miserable. So, while Adam was in direct communication with God, in direct connection with God's guidance in the garden, he was in a state of bliss. He was in a state of peace. A state where fear, dread, hunger, thirst, anxiety, neuroticism, all of these burdens were not present in his life. Were not part of his psychology. So Satan drives us out of the garden, out of this state of bliss and tranquility through various means. Trickery, deception, doubt, misdirection. And this comes back to the process of achieving a goal, because Allah is saying we did not find Adam to have determination, consistency, constancy. Why not? Because he was misdirected, he was distracted. It's the same process in our life when we have a goal. What usually trips us up? We get misdirected, we get distracted. We hit an obstacle, then most people do what? They give up, they quit. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us here an important indication that Adam, in a way we could say that he's being warned. Don't trip. You're going to fall if you are misguided. He's giving a warning. But we could say, if we apply our human understanding, that he's overcome by a sort of overconfidence, thinking that he's got this. I've got this. And this is the state of us. We get comfortable, overconfident. We think that we've made it. We think that we're good now. And then we face a major setback, a major shock point, which awakens us or humbles us and gets us back in touch with our what? With our limits, that we have limits. We can't do everything on our own. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us about our human condition, our human psychology. Without my guidance, left to your own devices, you're going to stumble. Right? That's part of your life on earth. You're going to have setbacks. You have to accept that. And one of the myths within Greek mythology is the myth of Icarus, where Icarus had wings and he became overconfident and his wings were made out of wax. So he kept flying up. Once he wanted to fly close to the sun. But the wings are made of wax. So what happened? They melted and he crashed back down to earth. This is part of the psychology of the human creation that the Quran is talking about. Ghafla, heedlessness, overconfidence. I've got this, I'm good. Crash. فوسوس إليه الشيطان قال يا آدم هل أدلك على الشجرة الخلد وملك لا يبلى. But Satan whispered to him, saying, Adam, shall I show you the tree of immortality and power that never decays? Satan makes false promises. He's like a used car salesman, right? Tells you, it's a great car, low mileage. He's wound back the clock. He's doctored the logbook. Inflated promises, sells you the dream without the fine print. He misdirects us, distracts us. We lose focus from our goal, our chief aim. But then there is always hope. Yes, you're going to fall. Yes, you're going to be misdirected. Yes, you're going to be overconfident and think, you've got this. I'm going to use my willpower. And then something's going to happen and you have a setback. You backslide. Allah's telling us this is part of your nature. In a way, Allah's saying, don't be so hard on yourself. This is the creation I've made. This is how you are going to operate. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the antidote. You know what an antidote is? Anyone know what an antidote is? Sorry? A cure, exactly, the antidote. This is the antidote now. ثُمَّ اجْتَبَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَتَابَ عَلَيْهِ وَهَدَى. Later his Lord brought him close, accepted his repentance and guided him. So when we deviate from our goal, when we have that element of fasaqa means deviate, like an arrow going off course, fasaqa sahm. What should we do? Should we say, oh my God, I'm so bad, I'm the worst ever, God will never forgive me? No. Who does that play into the hands of? Shaitan. Healthy regret, then return to Allah. God is telling us we will fall, we will fail, we will stumble. This is the nature of the Adamic creature. But when we do so, we should not condemn ourselves harshly. We should have a healthy level of regret, yes. And we should commit to learn the lesson from the mistake and turn to God for guidance. That's part of being a human. This is the psychology of the Adamic creature. Repentance or tawbah means to turn back. The Greek term is metonia. Literally means to do a U-turn. So if your intention is to drive from Sydney to the Gold Coast, what direction is that? North, right? So if you're driving and you find yourself in Wollongong, you going the right way? No, you're going south. So Tawbah here would say, oh, I'm in the wrong direction. What should you do? You need to turn around, right? You need to reorientate yourself. So Tawbah means you need to be going in the right direction. It does not mean you need to be at the exact location, as long as you're in the right direction. So if I'm doing Tawbah, and let's say my ultimate destination is Gold Coast, but at this point I was in Wollongong, but now I'm at Gosford. Would you say I failed? No, I'm in the right direction. Then I have a breakdown. My head gasket blows out, and I need to get a tow truck, call the NRMA. But then I manage to get an Uber or something. I get on a bus, a Greyhound, and I'm heading in the direction. Have I failed? Even though there was a setback? No. I keep my sight on my destination, Gold Coast. Right? So the setbacks are part of the process. What matters most is the direction you're heading in. Right? If anyone has invested in the stock market, which I have not, I'll tell you, Warren Buffett says that, the stock market is a place where impatient people lose their money. Right? Because what happens with the stock market? Is it linear or non-linear? Non-linear, meaning it doesn't follow a straight line. So what do most people do when there's a drop? Well, the smart people invest. They panic, sell. They sell the stock. It's going down. But eventually it is going to come back up. Right? But if you don't understand these laws that are being revealed here in the Quran, that apply to human psychology, these laws also apply to nature. When it rains, does it keep raining? Eventually it's going to stop. Every process cannot continue forever. Right? So we see a psychological process the Quran is giving us. First, when we have guidance, we feel good. We feel expanded. Sharh al-sadr. Like when Nabi Musa alayhi salam prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabbi shrah li sadri. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was guiding him. Expansion. We feel good. We're in flow. Like, I've got this. We've made it. That was the state Adam was in. Comfort, relaxation, peace in the garden. However, our progress in our life is always going to be non-linear. On this earth, it's non-linear. It will be interrupted. We will experience a distraction. Something will try to capture our attention. We'll be misled, misdirected. No process is going to be perfect on earth. If someone's losing weight, for example, there's going to be a point where their weight loss plateaus. And they get on the scale. It's like, not budging. But if they continue with their calorie deficit, with their daily steps, with their protein, with their protocol, what's going to happen? It's like, oh my God, the weight's dropped. Has anyone had that before? If you tried to lose weight, you hit a plateau, and then most people panic. They start to cut calories too aggressively, which rebounds. Your body becomes, you actually make things worse because you're not understanding the process that governs all of reality on earth. There are non-linear mechanisms here, and you want everything to be in a straight line. And as soon as you hit a hurdle or roadblock, you start to self-sabotage yourself. No. Our progress in our life is always going to be non-linear. There will be interruptions, distractions, misdirections. When this occurs, we need to apply a high degree of self-awareness to not fall into the trap. And if we do fall into a trap, if we do regress, if we do backslide, we need to recognize that we have regressed, awaken, ask for divine guidance, believe that God has forgiven us, and get back on track and continue the process. It's no shame to be knocked down, but it is a shame to decide to stay down, right? On earth, no process goes uninterrupted. The uninterrupted process is in which domain? The akhirah. On earth, no, it's governed by different laws. So if you want things in your life to follow a straight line, you're going to have a very difficult psychological life. While on earth we are governed by laws which ensure every process, while it may begin in a linear way, you're getting good grades, you're building muscle, and you're madly in love, whatever. It will never remain a straight line. How we manage the deviations, the setbacks, is what is the key to a healthy psychological and therefore spiritual life. So Satan depends on two things. Number one is being able to deceive us. And number two is when we fall, convincing us that our case is hopeless and that we should give in and give up. Have you heard of the story 3 Feet from Gold? It was a story, it's a true story of a gold prospector back in the 1800s. He had land and he was digging for gold. And he gave up. He gave up on the land and he sold it for a petty price. And the man that brought the land from him struck gold within 3 feet of digging. I believe so. So we're often close to victory. We're close to the breakthrough and we give up. If only we had gone a few more steps, we would have the victory. Imam Ali alayhi salam. Sorry, Arif. It would be annoying. Yeah, we self-sabotage. You know, the sweetness of success comes after we've been patient, Imam Ali alayhi salam says. The Quran is instructing us that the reality of our existence is that no matter how good things are, just as they were for Adam in the garden, there will be test points. There will be shock points. Think of love. Think of the misery that humans create for themselves in this area. How they get themselves into trouble. They fall in love. They become infatuated with the person, their spouse, their fiancé, whatever, and convince themselves that this strong romantic feeling, this intense positive feeling is going to last forever. And then the first argument they have, the first disagreement they have, they fall from grace. The illusion is shattered. It's like they suffer the hubut, the Adamic hubut. You know when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says hubutu, go down to earth? The hubut, that shock point. Oh my God, we wake up. They cannot handle that their illusion is shattered because they fail to understand that this life on earth is governed by non-linear processes. Now that does not mean that the love you felt is an illusion, but that it is a non-linear process. There's going to be setbacks like in the stock market, and then you bounce back up. You apply the right pressure, the right intervention, the right strategy. Sometimes no strategy, you're just patient and things come right. Whereas what do most people do? There's a deviation and they make it worse. They panic. They overcompensate. They start asking too many people for advice. They start going for wrong guidance. Bani Adam creates problems for himself. Instead of asking for divine guidance. And how does divine guidance come to us, by the way? We have to be still. We have to have solitude. How can you receive guidance if you're always talking and plugged in and earpods and podcasts and music and YouTube? Where's the guidance going to come? How are you going to be guided? Hey? Nowhere. There's no space for it. So when this infatuation is interrupted by an argument or disagreement, many people cannot handle this and their illusion is shattered. They fail to understand that our life on earth is determined by how we manage these specific points of disappointment, setbacks, that we do not turn on our heels and backslide because we understand that no process, positive or negative, lasts forever. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن الناس من يعبد الله على حرف فإن أصابه خير اطمأن به وإن أصابته فتنة انقلب على وجهه خسر الدنيا والآخرة ذلك هو الخسران المبين. There are some people who worship God on the edge, right on the edge. If good comes their way, they are content. But if an ordeal befalls them, they turn right back. Lose faith. Losing both this world and the next, that is the clearest loss. Our life on earth has seasons. Sometimes you're going to go through a winter. You might have a down period. But does winter last forever? No. That's right. That's right. Spring's going to come. Summer's going to come. Does summer last forever? Do the summer holidays last forever? Gold Coast and the beach and, No. Cyclical. So the psychologically and spiritually mature human, the Adamic creature, recognizes by pondering on these verses that our life on earth is governed by laws. And I've given you one of them today. We could call it the law of non-linearity. This is not the realm of the linear. This is not the realm where you have perfect straight lines. This is the realm where there are setbacks and deviations and shock points. And the quality of your level of consciousness is going to be determined by how you manage those deviations, those shock points and those setbacks. And if you understand they're part and parcel of your journey on earth, You're going to be a lot better equipped to deal with the adversities that life is going to throw at you. And by the way, when life throws at you an adversity, a difficulty, it's part of your spiritual growth. We established yesterday that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the Adamic creation to go down on earth, that it wasn't a punishment, but it was a natural consequence of the Adamic creature not being able to stay at the level of consciousness necessary to be in the garden. So this was not a punishment, because the command given to Adam was not legislative in the sense of it was a tashri'ah, because religion as such had not been established. Religion is established on earth. Sharia, prophets and messengers come. This was a advisory, a caution. You want to stay in this realm? You need to operate according to this paradigm. You need to have this level of awareness. You can't have that. I'm not punishing you. It's like, you want to live in the penthouse? Can you afford the rent? If you can't, it's not a punishment, right? You're not capable of staying there. That's just how it works. Okay? So I'm happy to field comments or questions. It was a bit of a lighter topic today, but I want you to see that just by pondering on 2 or 3 key verses of the Quran, how much wisdom that we can extract. Okay? And the key point, as we link it to Abu Abdullah, Imam Hussain, عليه الصلاة والسلام, is that his life was a testament that he was not, what's the right word here? He was not burdened by the usual, typical psychological processes that you and me are. He did have azm, he did have absolute resoluteness and steadfastness. Because any other human on earth with the pressures placed on Imam al-Hussein would have said, okay, I can't do this, I surrender. He had absolute determination. What's the mechanism? Because he was connected to that highest level in that vertical hierarchy. Right? And he fully understood the laws that govern this earth realm. Why did he fully understand them? Because he was from the family. He was from the sacred house, the purified progeny, who occupied the highest level of human consciousness possible. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. So what would you like to do, Hajj Hassan? Do you want to field some questions, or do you want me to?
I'll keep at it, and if anyone has any questions,
Okay.
pass around the mic.
Okay.
Also feeds on the live stream.
Okay, great. So any questions anyone has, any comments? So it has been a shorter talk today, so we can accommodate questions. You have a question, Dad? Okay.
Going back to when you said no process comes uninterrupted.
Yes.
The Sahara Desert in Africa, it was actually expanding, and they decided to build a wall of trees so that it would stop expanding. Let's just say that they planted 1,000 trees, a bunch of them died, and they gave up. The Sahara Desert would have taken up the whole of Africa, and it wouldn't be habitable anymore.
Wow, that's an amazing fact, son. I didn't know that. And when was that? Was that in recent history? Or?
I think it was like maybe, I don't know, but I'll assume
like this century or last century, do you know?
This century, I'm
This
pretty
century, okay. So that's an example of the human being having a level of authority over nature and influencing nature. Yeah. Okay. I hope that didn't have any negative consequences for the environment. We could look that up. Well, that was a smart move, what they did. Okay. Thank you very much for sharing that. It's interesting. Anything else? Any other questions or comments?
Would you like to explain neuroaesthetics? Briefly.
Neurostatics?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that term.
Okay. That's
You don't mean neuroplasticity? Or?
yes, something related to it. That's okay.
What did you have in mind? Maybe explain what you mean, so I give you what you're asking for.
Like cave paintings and something like that, or how we progressed as human beings.
Give me a bit more context. You mean how we evolved in our consciousness?
This evolutionary process.
Okay. Yes. So, well, if you reflect on the talks I've given, we can look at our evolution on two axes. Horizontally, right? We can get bigger, we can get stronger. Just in your life, you can get bigger muscles, you can get a bigger bank account, you can have more influence, you can have more followers on social media. This is horizontal growth. Now, the anthropology of the Quran is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not really, that's not how He measures us, by how much we've grown horizontally. He measures us by how much we've grown vertically. What does vertical growth mean? Not how tall you are. The level of consciousness you occupy, your level of awareness. Because at the lowest level of human awareness, at the darkest level of, like the basement of the building, who are they? They are Hizbul Shaitan. What they did to Imam Hussain, alayhi salam, Imam Hussain said, this is Hizbul Shaitan, you are the confederates of Satan. So we are judged by God according to how much we've evolved in our level of awareness. Because the more aware you are, the more you will have good character, good akhlaq. Yes, Dad? With microphone? Yeah. So this we could call Hajj spiritual evolution. Yeah. But the horizontal evolution in terms of our as a species does impact spiritual evolution. So for example, if on the earth you're starving, you're emaciated, or you have some sort of very adverse condition where you're always in a state of survival, that's not usually for most people going to be conducive to their spiritual evolution, because they're stuck in survival. Even in our Western environment here, supposedly a first world country, most people are always gripped by fear. News headlines, mortgage, interest rates, pandemic. What does that do when you're always in fear? Can you evolve spiritually? Very hard. Can you take time to think and reflect and ponder? Very hard. That's why most people who want to spiritually evolve end up leaving these cities. Right? Actually, I was watching a YouTube video this morning of an MIT-trained neurosurgeon who resigned from his job to live in the mountains because he was getting so depressed. Right? Yes, Arif.
So imagine we were measured on the horizontal plane. Imagine going to heaven just because you're a celebrity and you made millions of dollars. And then a poor person living on the streets goes to hell because, you didn't make enough followers, you didn't make enough money.
That's right. That's not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's standards, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rules by haqq, truth. And He's Al-Hakim, He's the wise. These are the standards of foolish people, as Imam Ali alayhi salam would call them. These are not God's standards. But because we have a material existence, Islam does not denigrate the material realm. So Islam is not like Buddhism, which says you have to not have an ego, you have to transcend it and live in a cave. Islam says, hey, you can be a merchant, you can do commerce, you can do trade, you can be comfortable, but be moderate. Keep your connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Ali alayhi salam advises us to apportion our time appropriately. Quarter of the time for earning our living, a quarter for acts of worship, a quarter to spend time with our friends and brothers in faith, and a quarter for our halal leisure, your halal enjoyment. And that's actually a recipe for a very happy life. Because what happens if 3/4 of it is for pleasure and leisure and 1/4 for earning money? What's going to happen? You going to be happy? No. Or all of it is for pleasure. All you do is watch video games all day and YouTube and indulge in things, and you're going to be miserable. So Islam is about having a balanced life, because it recognizes. So if you look at our prophets and imams, they were people. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi engaged in business. He went on trade trips, right? So this is not against being spiritual or being holy. The Islamic conception of the human is that you live your life on earth, but as you evolve in your consciousness, you reveal what's called a personal essence. You retain your personality. You're still Arif. And you still have your own unique personality. You have whatever business you do or studies, but there's a personal essence that's like an inner jewel that's unique to you as you purify yourself. Yeah? So you become in the world, but not of the world. You're living in the world, but you're not enslaved by the world. Yeah? So you avoid the two extremes. One extreme is you become a slave of the world. The other extreme is you become an extreme ascetic. Ascetic means I just want to live in a cave somewhere. And I just want to worship God in a cave. Well, both can be pretty extreme, because you still have to make a contribution to your community. You still have to function in society, right? So we tend to not have like monks in Islam. Extreme asceticism. Yeah? Maybe give someone else a chance if any other questions or comments. Salam, Habibi.
Hajj, to avoid experiencing the panic and the fear when we're faced with the setbacks, what advice do you have for us to redirect that energy to a more helpful one?
Well, the first piece of advice is to recognize that the setback is a normal process. That's the first thing, is to recognize that this is normal to have a setback. Because part of the panic and fear is the misconception that it's going to follow a linear process that's going to be uninterrupted. So if you factor that into your new mental model now, that, this is a setback, that's number one. Number two, instead of seeing the setback as a catastrophe, say, what is this setback teaching me? It's a feedback mechanism. Because there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. Right? If I have a goal to lose weight, and 1 week it's like, I don't like what I'm seeing on the scale, and it's like, okay, well, what's that telling me? What did I do this week? Did I count the calories properly? Have I changed my diet? How's my gut health? It's a feedback mechanism to help me recalibrate. So there is no failure. So if you see it as part and parcel of the process, and then you see it as feedback, by definition, the fear is going to be drastically reduced, if not eliminated. The fear comes from a distorted perception that this is wrong, this is bad, this should not be happening. That's why there's fear. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
If I may.
Yes.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, Hajj. How are you?
Wa alaikum as-salam wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, khayyi. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. So from what you just said, I'm reflecting back.
Yes.
When we were young, the society or our parents, they have got this from their society and parents, that failure is bad. No, it is your fault, or it is somebody's fault. You have to find who's at fault instead of having
Who's to blame?
Who's to blame? Instead of having this feedback cycle, this so that we can improve. For example, Edison, God knows how much he did, how many mistakes he did, the ones that are not documented. But eventually he got it. So if he did not follow this mindset that you're giving us, he would have not have had the light bulb with the right type of inert gas.
Yeah, he would have quit. He would have quit, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So humans will fail. They're both on both planes. Angels, I guess they will not fail. because they're only in the spiritual plane mostly, and animals, they're in the horizontal plane mostly, but they do tasbih. So am I right to say angels will not fail because they're in the spiritual, because if they fail they will do hubut? Is that correct?
Well, angels in a way don't have their own independent will or desire. Thank you very much. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. My understanding, Brother Sa'id, is that angels do not, because they do not have a corporeal or material existence, you could say an ego body, a desire. This is the difference, that they, in a way, conform perfectly to the divine commands or will or order. But we also establish that they have a limitation in the capacity of what they can take in terms of knowledge, which the Adamic creation is superior. So does that answer your question? So
That answers my question. Thank you. But didn't the angel that Imam Hussain alayhi salam did shafa'a for, he had made a mistake of going a bit slower than the due time, and then he was without wings on an island, so he made a mistake?
you're getting into a level of particulars there I have no knowledge on.
Okay, no
I have to plead ignorance on that.
That was always a question for me. Thank
Yes, all right, Said. Any other questions or comments? Yes?
You might have to shift over.
Another night you said that like all things have consciousness.
Yes,
That includes animals as well, right?
that's right, yes.
So when they do they speak to each other?
You mean the animals in the
Yeah.
same species, like dogs to dogs, or?
Yeah, like that.
Well, I don't know if I'd say they speak to each other, because speech is language, but yes, they would communicate with each other. They have a form of communication.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not at the same level. So the human communication is it's a quantum level different. You know what a quantum leap is?
Yeah.
A whole other universe.
Yeah.
We have language, we use words,
Yeah.
which give us symbolic meaning, conceptualization. And it's because we have language and words that we have domination over nature. We have aql. So that's unique. But other animals, of course, have other forms of communication. Yes, they do communicate.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Reflections?
Haj, just in terms of the linear structure,
Yes.
why do we have that tendency? And it seems like it's a default process. Like, why is it there? What does it
Just
serve?
explain to me what you mean when you say, why do we have that structure?
So see how you said we tend to think that progress is linear.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah, all good.
yeah. Why do we have that tendency to think that? By default?
I'm not sure. What I could say from our analysis that it tends to be our default programming. Right? That we have a tendency we have two extremes. Either we can be overconfident and think a good thing's going to last forever, or many people have the opposite problem where they just give up and don't even try, where they assume that nothing's going to work. So they descend into hopelessness. So what we want is, if you want to manifest, to achieve goals and projects in your life that are worthy, you need a position between those two extremes. So there's going to be periods where you've taken off, you're in flow, things are going smoothly, and then when there's a setback, it's like when the stock falls, you then need to have a strategy for how you're going to manage that setback to bring things back on course. Whereas for most people, well, at the extremes, it's either I want it to keep going, and if there's a setback, I go back to zero, or I've suffered many, many setbacks that I've poorly managed, that I develop what's called learned helplessness, which you would know. Seligman's work with the dogs, remember, from undergrad psych? Learned helplessness, meaning we stop trying because we assume nothing's going to work. Learned helplessness was a famous set of experiments where they, this was back in the days when psychologists did horrible things, these experiments with animals, where they put dogs on these electric shock plates and they'd give the dog an electric shock. But in the first phase of the experiment, the dog was chained to the electric plate. So obviously it would try to escape and it couldn't. Now, after multiple trials, the dog learnt that I can't escape. So when they'd remove the chain and they'd shock the dog, even though the dog could physically escape now because they're not chained anymore, they wouldn't. They'd stay in their place. Learned helplessness. Because they had repeated trials of failing. Now, how that applies to us is when we fail, we didn't get the right coaching or guidance to how to get back up and learn from the mistake. That's why, for example, when you see someone that is, let me backtrack. And what we need, this actually goes back to Saeed's point, what we need to learn from our errors, what we need to have what's called a growth mindset. If you read a book by a psychologist called Carol Dweck, you can have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. Growth mindset means, hey, there's always opportunities, always possibilities. You know what we need for that? Love. So what does love have to do? Isn't love when you love a girl? Arif? No. You're in high school next year, right? Okay. No, love means self-love. Self-compassion. Hey, I'm human. I'm fallible. I slipped up. I made a mistake. Or, I don't know, I gave a speech and I went all red like a tomato and everyone laughed at me. Okay, all right. I can try again and try again and try again. I'm going to learn from this. Azm, determination, means that you have enough self-love. And if you don't like the word self-love, self-worth, self-respect. Back yourself, man. Back yourself. I'm telling a lot of the young brothers these days who are struggling with marriage, come on, man, back yourself a little bit. See yourself as the prize. Why not? Because the sisters, the message they're getting 24/7 is, you're the prize, you're the prize, you're the prize, you're the prize. No, you're the prize. I would say, and you're the prize too. I don't want to get into a competition between brothers and sisters. You're both the prize. You're each other's prize. So, part of, I believe, Islam is this seeking excellence, seeking mastery. In Arabic, it's called itqan. Itqan is mastery. Excellence is ihsan, right? You're starting to be a physiotherapist. If you're Muslim, you want to be the best physiotherapist. You do not want to be a mediocre physiotherapist right in the middle of the bell curve. Right? Be the best at what you can do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you command of all of these tools, your intellect, your imagination, your will. So, a lot of people have a misconception that to be religious, they've confused humility. They think if someone's successful or striving, wants to be really good at what they do, well, they must not be humble. No, no, no. Humility is whatever success you're given, you acknowledge that ultimately it is the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have gratitude and it doesn't make you arrogant. You know, someone could be poor and not be humble because they're poor and they have a grudge against God. I think, you know what, why am I like this? You know, the syndrome of the failed artist. You know, the artist that says, man, I'm so good. I'm undiscovered. No one wants to publish my novels. I'm creating all these masterpieces in my basement and have a grudge. Someone might be a successful entrepreneur with $100 million company, but they're humble. Don't judge by appearances. Hitler, I'm not sure about that. Was he painting Hitler? He was. He's called the mustache painter. I didn't know. I know that he wrote his manifesto in jail, but I didn't know that he was a painter.
I think the story is he failed at painting, so he went into politics.
Ah, I see.
And then, no, he failed politics, he became homeless, he became a drug addict, and then he became a politician.
Is that documented? That happened? Okay, well, let's look that up on Wikipedia when we go home. All right. Any other questions or comments before we wrap up? Arif? Okay.
Going back to wait, like you could be a poor person but not be humble. Like some poor people might be tired of being poor, and then someone might be walking on the streets and they rob you.
I'm not sure I followed that. What do you mean?
Like a poor person.
Oh, the poor person robs someone?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. They commit a crime. Yes. Yeah. Do you want to say more about that? See, this is where a just ruler, like Imam Ali, if that poor person was brought to Imam Ali, and someone might say, he stole, punish him. Imam Ali says, no, hang on. What's the story of this person? The governor, the treasurer, are they being just? Are they spending the money justly? Are they giving to the fuqara? Why did this person steal? Why was he put in a position where he has to steal? Imam Ali alayhi salam, as the wise governor, ruler, the Khalifa, would ascertain. That's why I would advise you to read the letter that Imam Ali wrote to the governor he appointed in Egypt, Malik al-Ashtar. It is a masterpiece of modern day governance. You've read it, Hajj, right? So the point I'm making to you, young man, is just because someone steals, we have to understand the context. Why did that person steal? Do they live in a just society that is equitable or not? Because it's very easy to just condemn people as being bad. Yeah? Okay. Shall we leave it there? Any other questions? Any other comments? Hajj, father. No, all good.
Hajj, can you give us cliff notes on the letter? Imam Ali's letter to the governor in Egypt?
Cliff notes.
Yeah, a quick summary.
Not off the top of my head. I mean, Hajj Hussain?
Oh, here we go.
Yes.
Alright, so basically that letter, this is the letter, begins فَإِنَّهُمْ صِنْفَانِ إِمَّا أَخٌ لَكَ فِي الدِّينِ وَإِمَّا نَظِيرٌ لَكَ فِي الْخَلْقِ.
Hassan.
That the people are of two kinds, your brothers in Islam and your equals in creation. And Imam Ali tells Malik that even if they stumble, even if they make a mistake, show forgiveness to them to the same extent and in the same way you would expect forgiveness and mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this letter, in fact, it was quoted by the UN Secretary General Kofi Annan in a conference in Tehran back in 1997. And he said, if this letter was basically permeated worldwide and institutionalized worldwide, there wouldn't be any problem, you know. So.
Exactly. It's a testament to the, and it's a testament to Imam Ali alayhi salam, his commitment to absolute justice and truth. And I quoted the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi in terms of the connection that truth had with Imam Ali and Imam Ali had to truth. Right, so for any of actually one of the ways that you could read the letter, this would be interesting from a psychological perspective, is read that letter of Imam Ali as a man. Read it to you as a father figure advising his son. And take on board the perspective that what he's telling you about managing a government or a kingdom is how to manage your kingdom. Read it from that perspective as a letter directly from the Imam to you. Yeah? Okay, Hajj, any other questions, Hajj Ali? All right, shall we leave it there? وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Thank you. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سأل سائل بعذاب واقع للكافرين ليس له دافع من الله ذي المعارج. تعرج الملائكة والروح إليه في يوم كان مقداره 50,000 سنة فاصبر صبرا جميلا إنهم يرونه بعيدا ونراه قريبا يوم تكون السماء كالمهل وتكون الجبال كالعهن ولا يسأل حميم حميما يبصرونهم يود المجرم لو يفتدي من عذاب يومئذ ببنيه وصاحبته وأخيه. يود المجرم لو يفتدي من عذاب يومئذ ببنيه وصاحبته وأخيه وفصيلته التي تؤويه ومن في الأرض جميعا ثم ينجيه. كلا إنها لظى نزاعة للشوى تدعو من أدبر وتولى وجمع فأوعى إن الإنسان خلق هلوعا إذا مسه الشر جزوعا وإذا مسه الخير منوعا إلا المصلين الذين هم على صلاتهم دائمون والذين في أموالهم حق معلوم للسائل والمحروم والذين يصدقون بيوم الدين والذين هم من عذاب ربهم مشفقون إن عذاب ربهم غير مأمون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, across history, we can see commonly repeated words such as catchwords or slogans, which are catchwords. They are written on banners or on buildings or nowadays in media and with politics. So, across history's kingdoms exploit the slogans, those catchwords such as freedom, such as to build a society, colonialism. So they use slogans such as freedom, and they empower them with tokenism. And tokenism, when you look it up on Google, it will come out as hiring a group of people or using a group of people, which are a minority in society, to give the appearance that the government or the king have everything done fairly, things are being done fairly, and it's all good, to strengthen their mask. So this is used as a mask because they need to continue doing whatever the actions that they're doing, not in line with what's right, and that's why they need to use these, exploit the slogans and use tokenism, empower them with tokenism. One example, which breaks my heart, to be honest, is after the French Revolution in the 1979, I believe. I have to look at the time again. Yeah. 1779. I'm talking about the year 1779, I think. After the French Revolution, they did something called purification. When you read it on the website, it says genocide, but at that time they called it purification, which is killing innocent people. Amongst those genocide was killing 3,000 women at once because they wanted to save bullets. So they drowned them. They drowned them. I'm not gonna go into detail. It is horrible. It's outside of our world. It's very bad. So one of the women, as she's being taken to go to be drowned, she looked at the banner saying freedom. She said, "Oh, freedom. How many humans, how many victims have been murdered under you?" So in the name of freedom or other slogans, you are killed, or your rights are taken, or your freedom is taken. So what's the use of this freedom slogan? That's a question to ponder upon. So religion is either passed down to me, or it is my own choice, my own free choice and free will to find my path of life. Of course, it will be peaceful and peaceful in all directions. So, and they come and say, let's control things in many countries, even right now. For example, one just example would be the North Korea, where if you point with your index finger at the picture of the North Korea, Kim Jong-un, I think, you will be reported. Or if you have a Bible with you, oh man, if you forgot it there. Or Fir'aun in the past examples. We have both examples in the past and now. No, I didn't know. Alhamdulillah, sugar. Oh yeah, Iran, yes. So we don't care about your slogans. People don't care about that. The reality is that we care about the reality of your actions, what real actions have been taken. Nowadays, we hear people defending them, the Khulafa, very strongly, and they're coming almost every day, and they keep saying, because they see that Imam Hussain alayhi salam's name is above all, and it's like the whole earth is a Husainiyya right now. Almost every country, or there is every country, alam of Imam Hussain is rising, and it's like the whole earth, the Shia have made the whole earth like a Husainiyya. So they say futuhat. They were strong. They weren't weak. The Khulafa weren't weak. The real thing is Chengiz Khan, he also got even a larger size of land. The Mongol. Also, in our time, Saddam and Hitler, they also did futuhat to a certain extent. Saddam did for Kuwait, and Hitler did for many other countries as well. So, do we majestify or do we value or holify Saddam or Hitler? So, the real thing is another example, sorry. Europe, around 200 years, they did something called also colonialism, and they wanted to show them that, oh, we're going to build it. But what ended up happening in India, a beautiful country before it was overtaken by Europe, after 200 years there, when they got out, the country was poor. They were living in famine. They were forced to live famine. They forced famine upon people, and they used the slogans. So what it seems like they're doing is that they're using these slogans or masks to cloud or obscure people's vision of reality. But what really remains is the real actions. One example just came to mind is on the beach, when you stand, you see that there is lots of bubbles that form on the water. I believe the Quran, Holy Quran, there is an ayah in there that I have mentioned before, that the bubbles will go and the real water will remain. So the mask will eventually go. As the Hajj just mentioned, how long is autumn? How long is summer? Allah wants, subhanallah ta'ala, the truth from us, بتصديق العمل. In the Quran, even in Surah Al-Baqarah, if you keep going, you see that the believers, they have other characteristics, other signs. They have tasdeeq. Imam Ali alayhi salam, his name is, Muhammad gave it to him, As-Siddiq al-Akbar, which they gave to the first Khalifa that they follow. Tasdeeq means I believe in something, and my actions are in line with what I believe in. So if I'm not a hypocrite and I say God said the prayer is wajib, God said the siyam is wajib, when I do siyam, I'm not going to eat even when there's no one seeing me. That is called in ghaib, when no one sees you in ghaib. ليعلم من ينصره ورسوله بالغيب. When God says, so for God to make it evident who will be doing, who will stand with God and his messengers in the ghaib, which is in the unseen. So deep down in your heart, you're getting the sword to stand with the Prophet or with the Imam. What are you doing it for? Really, is it for God? Is it really for God? And بتصديق العمل in the salah this is the really big thing. Are you really following your whole life as the salah? The salah is like a contract you're signing with God. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين, for example. Only to you we pray and only from you we ask and request. So is your whole day and your whole life planned, and you understand the salah so that you can have tasdeeq al-amal, and that is what was mentioned as ghaib yesterday. I will now move on to darajat al-karam, if you don't mind. Is it okay? Levels of generosity. It's special for tonight. It's specific for tonight. The first level is sakha, then al-jud, then al-ithar. Levels of generosity. As-sakha, if you have enough money and you can donate adequate amount of money, you do it and it doesn't affect you. You're not cheap. And there is al-jud. When you see someone, they need money, you go give them. For example, someone who's living on the street and they're cold. Obviously, they don't have something. You go to 7-Eleven, buy something quickly and give it to them just to keep them happy, as well as, give them water, give them some food. Or you see that there's something needs to be done. You need to help people find their way of life. So you open a markaz, a place, an office. Al-ithar is the highest level. Ithar is the example that Abu Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam did for himself. When he went to the water and he did ithar on himself to give even when it affects him. Another example is Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, when they gave the food to the 3 nights after they did the Siyam and the Quran, even though they didn't have, so it affects them. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ. But I believe Imam Hussain alayhi salam did the best example of ithar I know of, to be honest. He did ithar on himself and gave everything to God, yes, to God, but for the religion of his grandfather, Prophet Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we really have to delve deeper in this ithar Imam Hussain alayhi salam did for us and say thank you, because thank you is wajib. I will leave that there. Tonight, as the brother Hussein told me, is the night of Hadrat Tifl al-Radi' Abdullah al-Radi' alayhi salam. So Hadrat Zainab alayhi salam, I'll start from here. She got Tifl al-Radi' and she got it to give it to Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and she told him this baby is about to die out of thirst. These are the last moments of his life, and they were the last moments. They say as if he was like a fish. When Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam requested a bit of water for this baby, and he said, you can even take it. And they had water, they had the river flowing like the snake's stomach. If you've seen a snake and you see how it flows in a wavy way, and the water was going like waves. So they had a lot of water. And how much water would it take to feed the baby? Only maybe a teaspoon, maybe 2, not much. So they had 3 choices. Either to give the baby water, leave the baby until it dies out of thirst, and it was about to die. Or third, which is what they did. They sent an arrow, a fighting arrow. This arrow is like a dagger. They stab, like, it's something that they stab people with, for the killing of the fighters. So they threw an arrow which is made for killing Abu Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam, Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. And what happened was immediately it cut off the baby's head, and it fell in Imam Hussain alayhi salam's arm, and blood filled Imam Hussain alayhi salam's palm. What did Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam do? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Imam Hussain alayhi salam said, Allahumma in kana hadha yurdik fakhudh hatta tarda. Which means, oh God, if this is what will make you happy about us in line, so take until tarda. I believe this is a very high act of Imam Hussain alayhi salam when it comes to ithar, to give even though it affects him. And I will finish up with bil ghaib. Yesterday I said al ghaib. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he would take the sack in the middle of the night, and he would go help the poor and anyone who might have any need. No one knew that until Imam alayhi salam passed away. Zainab alayhi salam telling Abu Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam conversation, it got to us. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam goes to the hur and tells him, أنت حر كما سميتك أمك. You are free just like your mother named you. Hur, which means free. Do you know what that means? Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when he goes to the fighting site, on the minimum there is 30,000 fighters, which is about 500 fighters per each soldier. Imam Hussain alayhi salam goes in the middle of that place and has that act. I'm saying these things because these things were done for God purely. So when you do something that no one sees, or you do something that's purely for God, don't think that it will be lost. No, God will show it. These things that we just said, they were ghaib, examples of ghaib that I've been looking for. And what Imam Ali alayhi salam did when no one saw him, or the other Imams, what Hadra Zainab said to the Abu Fadl al-Abbas. They weren't gonna come to us, but subhanallah, they came to us. So those are just some examples of the ghaib. And thank you so much for listening. And آخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Inshallah, I'll keep this brief with your permission. I understand it's late into the night, but of course, as these are the nights of Muharram, they cannot pass by without the dhikr of our beloved shuhada, the masa'ib for our dear and beloved shuhada. And tonight is the martyrdom of the 6-month-old Abdullah al-Radi Ali Al-Asghar, عليه الصلاة والسلام. Imam Hussain has lost everyone on the plains of Karbala. The blood of Karbala is stained red with the Sahab, with the family of Abi Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam, the brave soldiers. And he returns to his tent. As he returns, he asks if there is anyone left. He asks, is there anyone left? And the 6-month-old stirs in its cradle. He stirs and he falls upon the ground. Ali Al-Asghar falls upon the ground and his mother picks him up. The baby is crying, he is in tears, he is in anguish. And Rubab brings Ali Al-Asghar to his father Abi Abdullah. She tells him, this baby has not drank in 3 days. He is dying, he is dying. And Imam Al-Hussain takes the baby, he gathers him up in his arms and takes him before this cursed army, telling them, O army of Yazid, if I have wronged you, tell me, what has this 6-month-old child done to you? How could he possibly have wronged you? He is dying of thirst. He has not had a drop of water in days. His mother's milk has dried up. And the army begins to grow restless. Some of them want to give water to Ali Al-Asghar, the wailing infant. Some of them do not. And as Umar ibn Sa'ad, la'natullah alayhi, as he sees his army growing to becoming indecisive, he orders his best archer, Harmala, la'natullah alayhi, to fire an arrow. But this is no ordinary arrow. This is a 3-pronged arrow, not designed for a human being, let alone an infant. This is an arrow that is used to slay the wild horses. As the arrow flies, Ali Al-Asghar's tender neck is so visible on the plains of Karbala. The neck of Ali Al-Asghar, it looks like a shining piece of silver upon this desert plain. It is so obvious, it is such a target, and Harmala spots the target and fires the arrow. And as the arrow lands, and the neck is pierced, the head of Ali Al-Asghar is severed in the arms of his father. The blood pools, the blood flows, and it spills all over the shirt of Abi Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam. And Imam al-Hussain says, Allahumma taqabbal minna hadha al-qurban. Ya Allah, accept this sacrifice from us. Imam al-Hussain takes the infant back to his mother. Rubab is in tears. She is crying as she holds her infant to her chest. She is crying and she is crying. When Imam al-Hussain buries Ali al-Asghar, he does not have any water with which he can wet the sand. He does not have any water to wet the sand for the grave of Ali Al-Asghar. He only has his tears. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, please write for Latham. Keep it brief, and inshallah, then we conclude. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Hussain ya Mawla, Hussain ya Mawla, Hussain ya Mawla, Hussain ya Mawla. Hussain ya Mawla, 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 Hussain, Hussain, Hussain ya Hussain, 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 Hussain ya Hussain, ya Mawla Imami ثمرة فؤادي يا سبط النبي حبيبي كربلاعي يا مولى إمامي ثمرة فؤادي يا سبط النبي حبيبي كربلاعي. You gave life to Islam, protected Allah's message. Through your blood Iman lives, giving believers passage. Hussain, 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 ya Hussain. All of your enemies will pay for all that they did. They promised to join you, yet they forsook you and hid. The sky bled on that day, the sands of Karbala stained. The heavens bore witness to your every single pain. Hussain, 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 ya Hussain, 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 ya Hussain. O Master of Martyrs, your name lives on to this day. Your justice, your power unites pure souls in God's way. Al-Mahdi, your grandson, will strike down all oppressors. We await his coming. Son of Allah's messenger, Hussain, 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 ya Hussain, Hussain, together, Hussain, Hussain, ya Hussain. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. إن شاء الله زيارة